Hello everyone, welcome to cloud1e.com. My name is Mahesh and today we are going to discuss about CloudWatch. And also we are going to configure the EC2 alarms for CPU, memory and disk utilization alerts. And what is CloudWatch? What is CloudWatch ADN and how we are going to install it and what exactly we call it as a namespace and CloudWatch metrics, alarms and the SNS alerts. And after this we are going to do a lab and wherein we are going to install the CloudWatch agent and then we are configuring the config.json file with the metric values we are going to specify for CPU, memory and the alerts and the custom logs also. And then we are going to create an alert with the SNS topic for CPU usage and we are going to increase the CPU load so that the alert will get generated to the given SNS endpoint, whatever the endpoint we are going to provide for email or SMS. CloudWatch. CloudWatch is one of the service provided by AWS, and using the CloudWatch you can monitor all your applications and the resources. So CloudWatch is actually going to optimize the resources proactively, and then you can also proactively react on the changes that's happening on your environment. And it's also going to give you a unified view of resources health, and also you can use to collect the custom and AWS services logs. So it basically enables you to monitor your complete stack of applications, infrastructure and services, and it uses the alarms to logs and events data to take automated actions to reduce the mean time to resolution. Technically, AWS CloudWatch is a repository of all the metrics. So, using CloudWatch, we can create a multiple metric values for CPU and memory, and the disk values for our EC2 instances. At the same time, you can also input your custom data as a metric values in the CloudWatch, and based on that, and whatever the metric we are creating, and you can also create an action to trigger an email alert, or you can trigger an edge case messages, and you can trigger a lambda function, whatever, and the CloudWatch can also trigger a lambda function based on the alert we are configuring, based on the metric we are configuring. And at the same time you can also stop instances using the auto scaling function in the AWS. Let's say if you don't want to run your EC2 VM, EC2 instance, which is actually consuming very low usage or low utilization, you can stop the instance. At the same time you can also start the instance when it is required. So CloudWatch namespace. So container for CloudWatch metrics. So CloudWatch is nothing like a container for CloudWatch metrics, and all the metrics are isolated from each other. So for example, CPU, memory and thus, so each and every metric is actually isolated from each other. And naming convention of each namespace uses AWS/services. For example, if you are creating for EC2, it is going to get for AWS/ and EC2 and the metric values. So all the services are monitored using different variables, and each value of variable are called as data points, and metrics are specific to each region and cannot be deleted. Which means if you want to delete a metric which you created, and if you are not using the metric, you cannot delete, because the CloudWatch is going to delete that particular metric after 15 months of time. Let's say if within the 15 months if there is no data received to that particular metric, it is going to delete that value. And every metric should be tied to a timestamp and available in standard resolution with 1 minute granularity and high with 1 second of granularity, so that you can have a very good view on your actual environment, so that you can take the actions based on the alerts trigger. So we are going to do the lab, and so we are going to install the CloudWatch agent. We'll see how we can install the CloudWatch agent in the EC2 instance, and we are going to configure the metric values for CPU, memory and also custom logs, IIS logs, and then create alarms. So let's go to the lab. I logged into my AWS console, and you can see here there is one EC2 which is already running, and we're going to use the same EC2 for this lab purpose. we are going to install the CloudWatch agent using SSM. So we can also install the CloudWatch agent by downloading manually, but in this lab I am going to show you how we can install the CloudWatch agent using the SSM. So before that, I am going to assign a IAM role, which is not yet assigned here. So I am going to provide the full access for SSM as well as the cloud agent for this EC2 instance. So let's go to actions, security, and modify IAM role. Create a new IAM role, select create role, and going for AWS service, select EC2. Next, the policy I'm going to choose here, CloudWatch full access as well as SSM. Full access. Then go next, give a name to IAM underscore CloudWatch access. So the both policies are selected here, and then create a role. The role is created now. Let's go back here and then just refresh. IAM underscore CloudWatch access, save. Click on the instance, go to security, and if you see here the IAM CloudWatch access role is attached now. So now let's go to the SSM to install the CloudWatch agent. When you are in SSM console, select run command, click on the run command, search for package, you're going to get AWS configure AWS package. Select this and then select the action as in Amazon CloudWatch agent and just run. The agent installation is now successful. Let's go to the EC2 instance. Now I am in the EC2 console. Let's go to the services. If you see here, the CloudWatch agent is now installed and it is not yet started. So let's go to the configuration, try program files, Amazon, and then Amazon CloudWatch agent. You can see there are many files. So Amazon CloudWatch agent config wizard also there. This wizard will take you to configure the JSON file, which is actually the Config.json is actually going to create the metric values in your CloudWatch. So let's copy this path, go to PowerShell, cd program files Amazon and then Amazon CloudWatch agent, and now let's just type Amazon CloudWatch agent config wizard and then just press enter. This configuration wizard is going to ask you, are you going to configure this for Linux or Windows? So we are going to choose 2 for Windows. Trying to fetch the default region based on the EC2 metadata. Are you using EC2 on-premise host? No, I'm not using the EC2 on-premise, so we are using the EC2. Do you want to turn on the statsd daemon? Statsd daemon is going to use the statsd protocol to fetch the custom config or the custom metrics from the applications. So we are not going to use this. Just press no. And you have any existing CloudWatch log agent configuration files you are going to import? No, I'm not going to import. Do you want to monitor the host metrics like CPU, memory, etc.? Yes. Do you want to monitor the CPU metrics per core? No. Do you want to add EC2 dimensions? Yes. Do you want to aggregate EC2 dimensions? Yes. And what is the aggregation level? I'm going to choose for 60 minutes, and what default metric configs do you want. So the basic is actually going to configure for CPU, memory and the disk, and it is not going to give you for CPU. So let's choose the, instead of standard also we are going to choose the advanced. So when you choose the advanced, it is going to show you the configuration file that you had just configured. So the JSON file, you are going to the disk, memory, page file, physical disk, processor, and some TCP, v4 and v6 since you have selected the network. Are you satisfied with the above config? Yes. Do you want to monitor any custom log files? Here comes the log files. So do you want to configure any customized log files? So if you have any IIS logs or any other applications logs, you can send them to CloudWatch using the config.json file. So let's say for this lab purpose, I have already installed the IIS and enabled the log files. If you go to the IIS path, which is inetpub, and then go to the logs folder, there is a log file which is already created. So I'm actually using this log file as a custom log file here. So I'm going to choose yes. And what is the log file path? So I have given the log file path. So default choice yes. So the log group name, it is going to create with the server name, which is w3svc1, and the log stream name, it is going to give the instant underscore ID. So it is going to use the instant ID. And what is the log group retention in days? So the retention I'm going to choose 90 days. So do you want to specify any additional log files to monitor? No, as of now I only want to monitor only this file. So you want to monitor any Windows event logs? As of now, no. If you want, you can still configure it. So do you want to store the config in the SSM parameter store? So you can use the SSM parameter store to keep your config file there, and then you can fetch the config file to all the EC2s. So in this case you are not going to use that, so let's choose no for now, and then we just enter the exit. So let's open the config.json file, which is now created. If you see earlier it was not there, the config.json is created. Let's open the config.json file in the notepad, and you can configure, you can validate the configuration here if you want. So now we are going to fetch the command fetch, which means it is going to fetch the config file into the CloudWatch. So, and then it is going to start the agent, CloudWatch agent. Let's run the command. So this is the command to fetch the config.json file into the CloudWatch. So here the -m, which is actually specifying the EC2, and then C is actually specifying the config file, and then as it is going to start the agent. Let's press enter. So it is actually fetching, and then configuration validation first phase succeeded, and finally it is going to stop the agent and start the agent. So now the agent is started. If you go to the services now, the CloudWatch agent is running. So let's go back to the CloudWatch and you see AWS console. Let's go to the CloudWatch. Now we are going to create an alarm for our CPU metric values. So click on all alarms, create an alarm, and you are going to choose the metric that we just created. Just search for CPU, and then EC2 instance, and we have CPU balance, CPU utilization, the CloudWatch CPU utilization. See the current CPU utilization, then select metrics, the metric name CPU utilization, and it is going to use the instant ID. Just cross check the instant ID here, 8095, and yes, 8095, and the statistic is average, and the average period of 5 minutes, and the threshold is going to give you for 70 which is greater or equal to 70%. If the CPU usage is more than 70%, it is going to trigger an alert, and the data point is 1:1. And then in the notification tab, we have in alarm, and then OK and insufficient data. In alarm, the metric or expression is outside of the defined threshold. So the alarm would get triggered when the alarm is moved to in alarm, which means that the defined value is actually outside the defined threshold. So if the threshold is whatever, let's say 70%, and the value is 80%, it is going to trigger an alarm, because the alarm condition is moving to in alarm. So we are going to use the in alarm, and at the same time we have a OK. The metric or expression is within the defined threshold, which means below or less than the usage of whatever the threshold we set, 70%. And insufficient data, the alarm has just started or not enough data. Even there is no enough data is available, it is going to show us insufficient data. So in this case, we are going to use in alarm, which means when the alert is when the usage is more than 70 or 80%, it is going to trigger an alert. And we are going to use SNS topic. So we are going to create a new SNS topic. The email ID cloudwani.com@gmail.com. So we are going to create a topic. So when you create a topic with the email ID, it is going to send an email to the email ID which you have given here. So it is just to confirm that the email ID is valid and verified. I logged into my Gmail, and if you see here, AWS notification subscription confirmation, it is going to asking you to click on the confirm subscription. So the subscription is now confirmed. So you go back to the AWS console, and then so if you are using any auto scaling option to start or stop action based on the alerts, or based on the threshold, or based on the alarm, you can create here. So we are not going to do that. And you can also create an EC2 action, and you can also create any system manager action. So we are not doing that now. So this is for CPU underscore usage underscore usage exceeded. You see here, it is actually showing the current CPU usage now. So just verify all the settings and then create alarm. So the alarm is now created. As and when you created alarm, it is going to, the state is showing as insufficient data, and it is going to change to OK as and when it receives the proper data from the enough data from the EC2. Let's wait for some time. If you see, the CPU usage alarm is now changed to OK. So let's click on the CPU usage, and if you see the details, state is OK, and the description is CPU usage exceeded, and the actions are enabled, and the data points and the namespace we discussed, AWS/EC2, it is going to create the namespace like this. Okay, let's go to the actions. When in alarm, send a message to the topic, SNS topic, which is we just subscribed, CloudWatch alarms. So now the CPU utilization is very low, so it is not going to send any alert. So what we are going to do, we are going to increase the CPU utilization by running some custom scripts. I'm going to the EC2. I'm now in EC2 instance. I have some script which I just copied. So let's see what is the performance now. If you see, the performance of CPU is just 3%. I'm going to initiate the script. See, the CPU is increased now to 100%. So as and when the CloudWatch is get this particular data, it is going to send an email alert to here, this email ID. Let's wait for some time and monitor. Just click on it. Alarm usage. it is now still at if you see, the usage is still low. Let's wait for some time. We are actually waiting for our alert to get it changed to in alarm, so that we will be receiving an email. So meanwhile, we will just go to the log groups. So if you remember, we have already created a log file for our IIS logs, if I'm not wrong. So let's go to the log file, log groups, and see if the log group is created. So see, the log group is created with the given name, the server name, and the retention is 90 days, and there is one file created. If you see, all the logs are pumping here. So if you go here, C drive, inetpub, which is my IIS logs, whatever the logs coming here, it will be pumping to the CloudWatch, so that you can meet your company expectations or the company policies to making sure that the logs are centrally stored and the retention period has been set as per the policy, which is actually 3 months we have set here. In the same way, you can also send the custom logs from different applications to CloudWatch. Okay, now the alarm state is changed to in alarm, which means there should be email alert has been received here. It says the CPU usage is exceeded, and OK to alarm, it has been changed, and it is going to give you the instance ID and 8095, what is the actual EC2 the alert is coming from, and the last period it is actually monitored. CPU is running 100%, if you see here, and I'm going to stop the process, which is actually taking the 90% usage. So maybe here, let me kill this process. Then let's go back to see for the performance. As and when I killed the process, which was actually consuming 100% usage, the CPU has come down to the normal, and now the usage is 19%, and now the alarm should get changed to OK. See, now the CPU usage came down to normal and the alert state has been changed to OK. And again, if the CPU usage is crossing the threshold value, it is going to change the state to in alarm, and then it will trigger an action what we defined here. So here in this case, the action is to send an email. So it did send the email and we received the email. So that in this way you can configure the alarms to your monitoring team, so that they can take an appropriate action based on the alerts they received. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching my videos, and please don't forget to subscribe my channel, and as well as if you have any comments, please proceed to comment in the below comment section. Thank you. Bye bye.